Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we continue with our puzzle game here. So what we want to do is load an image. Okay, now if we go to the Canvas tutorial here, the one on W3 Schools that we opened earlier, I go to this by simply typing that in the Google search, and we go to Canvas Graphics. So in here it shows us how to actually draw an image. So we grab the context, which we already have, and then the image is equal to get element by ID, and I guess that's the image. And then we say context.draw image, and then we put the image source, and then here we put 10,10. Now this is the XY coordinate of the image. So this is really what we need right there. So we're going to add that here. Now let's create a function instead to do this for us. So we're going to say function add image. Now let's use camel case to keep the format, and let's paste that. So CTX is this we created here, the context, and then draw image is the function we can call on the context. Then we have to supply an image and the XY coordinates. It will be better if the XY coordinates are 0, 0, so that we add to the whole thing. Okay, that's great. So let's try this out. Now we need to provide the image. So I'm going to say let img is equal to, like we saw there, it says document dot query selector, and I'm guessing this is an image tag over here. This one here. This is an image element because it says document dot get element by ID. So which means it's like an actual image element on the page. So that's very different from this thing we have here. This is a file input, right? We can't use that. So we need somehow to create an image, an actual image object. So we can do that luckily by just saying new image like so. Okay. And then now we can put a source to this image. I can say img.source is equal to, because every image object does have a CRS property. So that's what we're trying to access here. We say img. So we've just created this as a new image from thin air. It's not an element yet in our DOM, so we're just going to give it a source. So here I'm going to grab the source from within this input. So this has a property called files that contains an array of files that you select when you open the file dialog box. So we're gonna do, so the thing is we need to grab this thing, this input. So we can give it a class name so it's easy to capture it. So let's put a class, or you can use an ID, it doesn't really matter. So here we just say image input. Okay, so since we have image input there, we can do the document. So we're going to say document dot query selector. All right, we can do document dot query selector, and then we get that class name, which is image input. Okay, and then dot files, the files that it has, and then we just want the first file. Since it's an array, we'll access it like that. So we want the first item from the files property of this element right here. Now don't forget the dot here because these are class names. So the source is equal to that, and then we put that there, and voila, it should work. Now the add image is a function we should call whenever there's a change on this input. So we're going to do on change event, run that instead. Okay, cool. So let's go back and try this. So if I now refresh and click, let's get one of these images, and as you can see, it didn't work. Let's go to the inspector and look at the console if there are any errors, and there are none. So that's always a bummer. Alright, so let's try and see why this may have not worked. The image.source is there. Now the thing is, the source of the image, let's see, file, let's try .name here. Let me see if that will load it. So let's try load. Okay, so that didn't work either. File not found. Okay, so that didn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an object called URL that comes with JavaScript, and it's got a method called create object URL, like that, and then that's what we're going to wrap this whole file blob that we got from the input element inside. So this is usually what we do if when somebody selects an image, we want to display it right away before uploading onto an image tag. So we'll do something similar here so that we give it that the source, and then we load the image. So let's try this and see if it works. So I'm going to load this one. Let's try again. Let's see. Okay, so that didn't work either. Okay, so when we put these coordinates here, if I go back to my canvas reference here, let's go to images. Oops, I forgot my internet is down actually. So let me just switch on my internet for a second here. I don't know, my router just went down for some reason. Okay, there we go. Should be back. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, while we wait for that, what I was gonna say is you can specify the width and height of the image. So let's try 100 by 100 here, like so. Okay, so let's get back to this and let me refresh and let's try and load this. Okay, so that didn't work either. Now the reason it didn't work, so let me remove this width and height. So clearly that wasn't the problem. Now the reason it didn't work is, you see, images take a bit of time to load. So we should actually add a promise of some kind. We tell it to run certain things after it has loaded. So let's add an event listener to listen for the load event. When things have completed loading in the image, then we draw the image. So what I'm going to do here is say img.onload is equal to function. Okay, so let's put this one inside there, like so. That way this only runs when the image has loaded. So new image, we set the thing here, that's great. And what else? And also before I change that, let's try this out. I'm gonna load this, and there we see the image has actually loaded this time. Okay, but the width and height are all weird. Now another way to actually send this data is through here. So here I can just say file and grab the file from there, and then what I can do instead is send the file directly when calling the function. So we can do that here by just saying this. Now when you say this in this context, this means this input here. So this, we know that it's got a property called files. So this dot files 0, like that, the first file on the change event, we've sent that. So here we can easily just capture it as a file, and then we can replace this whole thing with file. Okay, that is good. Now we have loaded the image. Now what I want is for the width and the height of the image to follow the canvas. So I'm going to do canvas dot width and then canvas dot height. So that will be the width and height of the image that we load. So let me close my console and click load here, and let's load that, and there it is. Now of course you can see it's squished and squashed, which is not really very good. Also, let's change the width and height of the canvas. You can change this dynamically, but for now let's just do it directly here. Let's put 600 by 600. Let's see how that fares in terms of resolution. It doesn't seem to have changed much. So instead, let me read the images that we added directly from our project. So I'm going to go to tutorials, puzzle, and images. So in there I will load my images over here. That's great. Now the resolution is terrible, and I'm suspecting it's because we didn't specify the width and the height of the image thing. So I'm going to say image dot let's see, dot width is equal to 600 pixels. Let's see here, 600 pixels. Or let's just do canvas dot width and canvas dot height. Let's put those there. Like that. Let's see if there's an improvement in there. So refresh, load, and let's load that. Doesn't seem to have improved anything. Alright, so the reason the image is pixelated is we have to remember one thing. If I go back here, let's see. We have a style for the canvas here which says width 600 pixels, right? And height 600 pixels. So what this does is that it actually stretches the canvas to those specific width and height. Now this is the same as if you had an image. No matter how low resolution the image is, you can still stretch it to these specific coordinates. But if the original image, the image itself, is less than these coordinates or these sizes, it's going to look pixelated. So this is what's happening here. My canvas is smaller than I'm actually showing here, and when I use those styles in the CSS to increase the width and height, I'm pixelating it. So what I need to do is the original canvas itself should have very specific width and height. So we can do that in JavaScript here. Right after we create the canvas itself, we can then just say canvas.width is equal to 600. Now note we don't put pixels there, and canvas.height is equal to 600 as well. So it's a square image. Now this represents the number of the actual viewport of the canvas. This would represent the original image size of whatever image you're creating, because remember, when you make a canvas, you're simply creating an image of sorts. So this is the actual pixel width and the actual pixel height. These ones here are the simulated width and simulated height that the browser will stretch the canvas to, regardless of its original actual size. So once we do that, we're increasing the resolution to that amount, and this should actually solve the problem. So let me move this here so that we are a little more organized, and then I can remove these guys because these are not the cause of the problem. Oh, there's a duplicated version here. Alright, so there we go. We grab the file, we create a new image, we use let so that it's immediately disposed of after the function has run, and then the source of the image will be this image blob over here, and then we wait for the image to load, and then we actually use the canvas function draw image to draw the image. So let's see if we have a clearer image this time. And there you go, the image is not as pixelated as it was. So now if I click and drag here, we see nothing happening. So we have to move to that next stage where we put, when we click and drag here, we should see a box being created so we can cut these pieces out. Alright, so I will see you in the next video.